In my first video, which also happens to be my last video, I talked to you about the question that God asked Adam and Eve, where are you? Hi, my name is Eva Marie Everson, and I am the author of The Third Path. This is not the norm for me. I typically write Southern fiction, but I wrote this book because I had taken a year and a half, at least a year and a half long journey through the questions, or some of the questions that God asked in the Bible. Now, in the last video, I explained to you how all of that came to be, and I'm not gonna explain it again. I don't want to bore you. But what I do want to do is encourage you to look at some of the questions in the Bible. In fact, I would love to encourage you to, pick up your own copy of The Third Path. You can find it at Amazon. You can, of course, go to your favorite bookstore and ask them if they have it. If they don't, ask them if they can order it. It's from Bold Vision Books, and I really enjoyed working with the people at Bold Vision Books. They helped me put together a beautiful book, exactly what I was hoping for. And gracious, look at this cover, would you? Isn't that awesome? I love the cover. It was designed by Amber, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name, but I'm going to try it. Okay. I know how to pronounce the last part of her last name, just not the first part of her last name. It's Amber Wagon Buckley, maybe Wagon. I'm not really good with this. So, but anyway, my friend Amber, just don't know her last name, created the cover to this, and I just think it's beautiful. At any rate, I do want to talk to you about another question that we find in the Bible. Now, what I did was I composed 26 questions because for this book, out of the hundreds of questions that we can find in the Bible that God either asked directly or indirectly of his children. And then I studied the stories behind them. I studied some of the meanings of the words in the original Hebrew, the original Greek, sometimes in the Aramaic. And I just dug in to that. And I share that in the book. I share the stories in the book. And then what I did was I took that question and parts of the story as I was journaling and as I was writing, and I underlined key phrases or words that spoke to me that I wanted to dig in. It was one of those things like, God did not put this in here for no reason, right? Sometimes if you're reading the Bible and there's something in it that makes you pause, it's like, why is that important? Well, there's a reason for that. If the color of the silk is mentioned, or if the type of fabric is mentioned, or the time of day is mentioned, or the number of people are mentioned, etc., if there's something that causes you to say, why is that so important? There is a reason for that. So, underline those times, because even if maybe it's not something that's important for the whole world, it's important for you because you just grabbed a hold of it and said, So this is what I did. And there were times when it would take me weeks to answer some of the questions that I found. There were times when I could answer the questions in a single sitting. But for the most part, to answer them fully, to answer them completely, to answer them honestly, I just had to take my time. Now, on that note, let me just say this. If you cannot be honest with God, well, then you can't be honest with anybody, because the truth of the matter is he already knows the answers that are in your heart. So let's say you are walking into church one day, or walking into the store, walking into a restaurant, and see someone who you know, or perhaps even someone you haven't met yet, and they say, hi, how are you today? And they don't really want to know the answer to that question, especially if they don't know you. I mean, the answer is an automatic, I'm fine, how are you? I'm good, how are you? We don't often answer that question with the honest truth, do we? This past weekend, 2 of my friends lost their husbands. This past weekend. And in fact, it was on the same day. They both went into hospice one day. They passed away the next. Both of them. They don't even know each other. but I know them. Now, if I were to see them in a restaurant and they didn't really know me and I didn't really know them, and I would say, "How are you today?" They would probably say, I'm good. I'm good. Even though the truth of the matter is they're not, they're grieving. But we don't answer strangers' questions with honesty. Sometimes we don't even answer the questions honestly to the ones we know best and the ones that we love best, the ones who love us best. But with God, we cannot fudge on the questions. We cannot get around them. We cannot pretend with the answers. We have to be honest because he knows us anyway. So when you look at the questions that God asked in the Bible, and if you pick up a copy of this book and you decide that you want to go through the questions, that the 26 questions that I picked that I think are some of the most critical questions, especially getting us started on this journey, getting you started on this journey. Well, first and foremost, decide that you're going to be honest. And if it takes you a day to answer the questions, if it takes you a week, if it takes you 2 weeks, if it takes you a year, it doesn't matter. This is you getting real with God. It's cheap therapy. It really is. Okay, so last week we talked about the question, where are you? Here's a question that I want to talk to you about this week, and it is found in this book. The question is, what do you want? See, when Jesus had just been baptized by John, who was his relative, John the Baptist, he'd just been baptized in the Jordan River. And some of John the Baptist's followers, disciples, were there. Among them was Andrew, who became a disciple of Christ. And they followed close behind Jesus as he walked away after this monumental moment. And when Jesus realized that they were following him, he turned around and he looked and he said, "What do you want?" Now, they answered that question with a question. "Teacher, Rabbi, where are you staying?" Because you see, wherever he went, that's where they wanted to be. They saw something new and exciting and different. This was the one, John said. He was the one that was to come. Not John, not himself, this man. And so they followed after him because they had been praying for him their whole lives. They had been praying for him for generations and generations and generations. And there he was now walking in the flesh. And he turns around and he looks at them. And when I think about this moment, I think about what his eyes must have looked like. Did he smile because he already knew the answer? Or did he just look at them and say, "What do you want? Where do you stay? Where are you going?" And then Jesus said, "Come and see." And that's when I imagine that he smiled. Oh, because he had so much in store for them. They just couldn't even begin to imagine where he was going and where he was staying. Such a story. So what if Jesus were to ask that of you right now? What if you were following along behind him because you have finally realized he is it? He is the Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is the Savior of all mankind. He is the one who is going to change your life radically. What if he turned around and looked at you? Robes billowing in the breeze. Little crinkles around his eyes. And he said, "What do you want?" Take that question and break it down. What do you? What is it you desire? What is it you crave? There's a question. Go ahead. Grab your journal, grab your pen, and answer the question. I encourage you, again, if you want to know more, to get the book, The Third Path. I'm so excited about this book. I truly am. This was a work of my heart, and I just want to share it with you. these questions and answering these questions changed my life. And I want you to have the same experience that I did. So I'll see you again soon. Until then, bye for now.